Welcome back to another episode of the North Star Takes podcast. I'm Bailey Paulicki. He's Jacob Liberta, and we're a Minnesota sports podcast. So if you're a Minnesota sports fan, especially a Timberwolves fan, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. And today we're going to be talking where the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to finish in the Western Conference. So obviously, it's a little too early. There's still a lot of dominoes that could fall, especially with these Western Conference teams. It appears the Phoenix Suns are in on Kevin Durant. There's other free agents out there as well still that moves could be made. So we're just going to kind of go off of what we know right now and just kind of predict where the Timberwolves may fall. So Liberta, we'll start with you right away here out of the gate. Break down your Western Conference. We'll go top 10, just include the play-in teams.
Sure. Yeah, that works for me. Who doesn't love making NBA season predictions in July? But
right? Yeah, exactly.
I love this. I would say, like you said, there's a lot to be decided here, whether KD stays out east or comes to the west and makes some team like Phoenix the rich get richer, or maybe he turns a non-factor team into a contender in the west. So I think that remains to be seen, or that can obviously change this quite a bit. Yep. But I guess as far as these NBA standings go, or Western Conference standings, excuse me, I would start with, I think the Clippers are the best team in the West next year. I think having the star power between PG-13 and Kawhi, along with a lot of really good role players there, in my opinion, I think they're going to be tough to beat. I think they'll have a very formidable squad.
Ty Lue,
very good coach. So it's just, there's a lot to like there. And then I would say second, the defending champs, the Warriors, hard to count them out. I think they're going to return most everybody. I know they had some role players exit, but there were guys, truthfully, that didn't play that much. So I don't think that's the end of the world. And they got the three Splash Bros now between Clay and Steph, and then now Poole's coming into his own, and then everybody loves Wig here. But, I think they'll be good. And then I would say third, I think the Suns will be good, whether they get KD or not. I think they'll be a force. I think they're going to take some steps back from where they were a year ago, because obviously a year ago they're ridiculous. They won, 64 games, I think. Right. So I'd say I'd pick them at 3. And then I'm slotting in our Minnesota Timberwolves at 4. I think we're a top 4 team in the West now with a starting 5 that I would really match up with anybody's in the league. I think we are a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, this looks good on paper, and we got to see it come together on the court. But I think it's time to really drown in that T-Wolves Kool-Aid and just buy in, because I think this could be the most special season we've had since 2004. I know last year was great, but I think we can be even better. So give me the Wolves at 4 there, obviously, with Ant's progression, Cat being an all-NBA player, Gobert in the mix as a former defensive player of the year. And then you got Jay McDaniels, again, another guy making great strides. And then D'Lo, hopefully in the best position possible to succeed in the ways that he does, with Gobert there for a great use of the pick and roll. So I'm really excited about this Wolves team. And then after that, I would probably peg. It's tough to say. I would say, give me the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets will be really good again, just because Jokic can carry them so far, and then adding Murray back in the mix, and I think Porter Jr. should be back too. I think that team will be very solid, Tim Connelly's old team, but I think we're a little bit better than them, so that's why I got them at 5. Then I put the Grizzlies at 6. I think they're still a very good team, but I also think they kind of overachieved last year, so I think there's going to be some steps back here, and I'm pegging them at 6. And then I feel like, too, that's another team I feel like we're better than, just because it's like we've only got better this offseason, and I think we honestly should have won that series last year, or this past postseason. So that's why I put them there. 7, put me down for the Mavericks. I'm going to say Luke on the Mavericks. I think they're going to be a little bit worse without Jalen Brunson now, and I think they'll be pretty good, because they just had a Christian Wood though, right?
Yeah, him and JaVale,
yes. So like they're gonna have a lot of trees in there, but I would say I still feel like that was another team like the Grizzlies that kind of overachieved, and they went to the Western Conference Finals, so props to them. But it feels like regression is inevitable, so put them at 7 for me. And then let's see, who am I missing here? I'm looking at last year's playoffs. Jazz are out of it now.
Jazz and Pelicans are still in there, and the Spurs too are going to be terrible.
Yeah, you know what? I'll put the Pelicans at 8 still. I think they'll be pretty good again. Maybe they'll get a healthy Zion. on a max. But they also have McCollum there too, and Ingram, who I gained more respect for last year. So I'm liking what they're doing there. Put them down at 8 for me, and then I guess moving down to 9 and 10, so where it gets a little more sparse.
Yeah.
I guess put me down for, let's say, the Lakers at 9. LeBron gets them back in the playoffs. I don't know if that's a huge thing. Just kind of lurking out there is if they actually get Kyrie or not. Obviously, that changes everything if they do. But if they don't, that team is awful. So I think they claw in just because it's LeBron and like he's not gonna miss the playoffs back-to-back years. But without like getting Kyrie or KD or something like that, like stick a fork in them.
Mm-hmm.
And then rounding it out, let's just throw in the Blazers there just because they're the best of the worst down there because they just signed Dame that extension, and I love Dame, but the rest of that team doesn't really do it for me. But I think it's better than the rest of these guys. Like for instance, the Jazz will be this year, and I'm not a believer in the Kings or the Blazers, or not the Blazers. I just said the Blazers, the Kings, the Thunder, the Rockets. Like, so yeah, that's what I'd round out the top 10 with. But it feels like to me a pretty clear cut 8.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like if there was no play-in tournament this year, I think it definitely would be a clear-cut 8. And, for me, I guess I'll get into it, but I think the Lakers and Pelicans could be pretty close because I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't see LeBron letting his team miss the playoffs 2 years in a row, even with how horrible Westbrook's been and Anthony Street Clothes Davis. But I'll get into it here. So my number 1 seed, this is going to be tough, man, because I see regression coming for Phoenix. Oof. I'm going to say my 1 seed will be Golden State. Assuming that they don't have any injuries, they're going to be bringing back basically that entire team. They'll still have Wig. So yeah, I think Golden State will be, a force to be reckoned with, but they're not going to be, the world beaters that they were 4 or 5 years ago. So they're definitely beatable, but I just think in a Western Conference where there's no clear dominant first team, I got Golden State number 1. This is where I differ from you a little bit. I think Dallas is going to be number 2, and I think that's simply just because Luka is probably a top 5 player in the game right now.
It's hard to argue that. That is true.
And he's a walking, triple-double type player. He can carry this team. We saw it down the stretch. When we were in that chase for the 5 and 6 seed, we kept thinking, oh, man, Dallas will fall back to us. Who do they have? Well, they had Jalen Brunson, and he did leave, but they also improved in their front court with Christian Wood. Now they got JaVale McGee. So they're kind of almost trying the Wolves approach of having a couple bigs in there, albeit not as talented as the Timberwolves, but I really do like that Mavericks team. So I got them at 2, and then I got Memphis at 3. I think, I can see why Wolves fans would think that, well, we're going to be past Memphis now, but you got to give Memphis some credit. I mean, Ja Morant legitimately could be an MVP type player every single year. They have excellent role players, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. They don't really have the star power that the Timberwolves do, but in terms of scheme, they have a really good head coach. It's just they're a good athletic team that plays really solid fundamental basketball, and I got to give them their credit, man. I mean, they're a gritty team. They do talk a lot of trash, which, I mean, that could come back to bite them. Mm-hmm. But especially with Golden State, like I don't get that whole back and forth Golden State talking all that trash. But anyways, I'm with you, though. I got the Timberwolves at 4.
Yes.
I think that's just a perfect spot for them to slot in. I mean, because if you're looking at last year's standing, the Jazz will fall down. I truly believe the Timberwolves are better than the Denver Nuggets. Oh man, I'm missing the Clippers here too. So I better put some respect on their name. I got the Clippers at 5. I probably should have had them higher, but I'll put them at 5 just because it's tough to rely on, a fully healthy season of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Kawhi didn't play at all last year, so you'd have to think, there might be some rust getting knocked off at the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. Maybe some slight chemistry issues to start off with as well. So more so banking on a slower start for the Clippers, but then obviously finishing strong and being a pretty scary team to play in the first round of the playoffs for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And obviously we all remember that fantastic play-in game between the Wolves and Clippers, but that game did not have Kawhi Leonard. So that would definitely be an interesting series, and definitely a series where the Wolves would have to grow up if they want to advance out of the first round. So I got the Clippers at 5. I got Denver at 6, where they were last year. They're getting Murray and Michael Porter Jr. back, but I just don't think Michael Porter Jr. is that fantastic, and he can't stay healthy. And obviously Jamal Murray is really good, but I don't think it's gonna be enough of a difference maker. And like, is Jokic really gonna keep playing at an MVP type level?
That's a good point.
Is he gonna keep staying healthy like he has? Like, I mean, there's all these different variables at play with Denver, and I don't think they have the greatest role players anymore. So Denver at 6. So now we got kind of, where you were at last towards the end of your Western Conference as well. The Jazz fall out. I think I'm going to put Phoenix at 7.
Okay.
And just because, assuming they don't get Kevin Durant here, if they get Kevin Durant, they're probably the 1 seed. So this is a huge swing. But Chris Paul's another year older. It appears DeAndre Ayton's on his way out of town, whether it comes via sign and trade to maybe get Miles Turner. So I got Phoenix at 7 just because I think there's a huge regression coming, especially if DeAndre Ayton doesn't come back. And Chris Paul's another year older. I'm sure he's going to keep having injury issues. Booker somewhat has injury issues. He's been kind of in and out. And, they do have really good role players and they have a good system there. But, man, if they couldn't do it this year, I don't know when they're going to be able to do it. The clock's running out on Phoenix.
Yeah, I was just going to add in there real quick. Yeah, Phoenix, I think there is a little bit of a chance of – or I think there's a decent chance, really, of a hangover just because I think after the season they had last year and to fall flat, like without even getting to the conference finals, that feels like a huge blow. So to pick yourself up from that this next season and go through all the motions again, like that's kind of a tall task. So I think I'm liking more and more sliding Phoenix down the standings a little bit.
Yeah, and then I got let's see, I'm at 8 here. I got the Lakers at 8. Just giving LeBron basically the benefit of the doubt. Maybe Anthony Davis plays a little more this upcoming season. And like you said, if they get Kyrie, things could change. They could definitely push for a top 6 seed in the West. But if they're running it back with Russell Westbrook and they don't really have any good role players on this team, I see them as an 8 seed. And it's probably tightly contested with the Pelicans as the 9, even Portland potentially. But I'm going to put the Pelicans at 9 with Zion coming back. Obviously, you can't rely on him to stay healthy either, but they got CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram. They got some pretty nice players. So I could see New Orleans potentially being even a higher seed, maybe 7, maybe even pushing 6. But I still think they're a little ways away just because Zion really hasn't played in, almost 2 years. So, and then rounding out the top 10 is the Portland Trailblazers with Dame. And that's just basically because all these other teams are terrible. The Spurs are tanking. The Kings are terrible. Oklahoma City's in a rebuild, and Houston's done a pretty good job of acquiring assets and draft picks, and it appears they picked some good players in the draft, but they obviously won't be a threat for at least in the next few years. So it's kind of an interesting landscape of the West. It makes you feel good about the Timberwolves' chances just because, I mean, when you look at these teams across the landscape of the West, I mean, the Wolves really do seem to have a better roster than most of these teams. So it's just going to come down to, coaching, executing, and, maturing and growing up a little bit and, being better in situations and not blowing 15 to 20 point leads on a consistent basis and, things along those lines. So what are your thoughts there?
Yep, exactly. I think we're going to be banking on Chris Finch to drop a great scheme and then for our guys to play within that scheme and know their role and really pick their spots as far as when we're going to have certain guys take over, whether it be a Cat game or an Ant game or maybe even a D-Lo game, right? Or how much are we going to use Jade McDaniels this year? I feel like he should definitely get his just because he's really coming into his own. Obviously, he had that huge Game 6. It's the most recent memory Wolves fans have him where he was just on fire. So I feel like he's got to get a lot of touches. And then you consider Gobert there right in the middle. I know he wanted to get more involved offensively in Utah, but I think now he could be even more so with the pick and roll with D'Lo. So I think basically, everybody understand their role, and then especially off the bench too. I think really playing for a team goal rather than themselves. I know that can be a little bit concerning, or that could certainly be something to watch this year with D'Lo on a contract here, definitely trying to shine on his own.
Oh yeah.
Just to basically, secure that bag come next offseason. So I think, basically guys understand their roles and playing towards the team goal, and Finch really drawing it up for him in the first place. So,
yeah, I think it's perfect. We both had him at 4th in the West because I think that's the sweet spot, 4th or 5th. Maybe they can push even higher if, maybe some of these other teams don't perform as well as what we're maybe thinking. I know I'm higher on the Mavs. You're higher on the Clippers. So
yes.
It'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds. But that will do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Like I mentioned earlier, please click the like button and hit the subscribe button on this channel. Feel free to give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you see the Western Conference shaking out next year as it stands currently? By the time we drop this video, who knows? Maybe Phoenix will trade for Kevin Durant and all of it becomes null and void anyways. But let us know your thoughts. Where do you think the Wolves will finish? And just how you see the Western Conference playing out next year. So until next time, thanks for watching.